Nothing valuable in life comes completely free. If you want something meaningful, you have to give something in return. Sometimes that payment is money, but many times it is something much more important. Your time, your effort, your patience, your courage, and your consistency. Learning English is exactly the same. You may want to speak fluently, understand movies, communicate confidently, travel without fear, or express your thoughts naturally. But all of these things require a price. The good news is that you do not have to pay with money. You can pay with practice. Think about your dream of speaking English confidently. Imagine yourself sitting in a room with people who speak English naturally. You understand their conversation. You respond without translating every sentence. You don't panic when someone asks you a question. You don't become silent because you are afraid of making a mistake. You simply speak. That picture is possible, but it will not appear overnight. You have to build it slowly, one day at a time. Many learners want the result without accepting the process. They want fluent English, but they don't want to speak every day. They want confidence, but they don't want to make mistakes. They want a strong vocabulary, but they don't want to use new words in real conversations. They want perfect pronunciation, but they don't want to practice speaking aloud. This is where many people stop. They think they are not talented enough. They think other people have something special. They think English is easy for everyone except them. But the truth is much simpler. Most successful learners have simply accepted the price of improvement. They understood that being uncomfortable for a few minutes today can create confidence tomorrow. Imagine going to the gym one time and expecting a strong body. It doesn't work that way. You exercise repeatedly. Some days you feel energetic, and some days you don't. Some days you see progress, and some days you don't. But if you continue, your body changes. Your English works the same way. Your brain needs repetition. Your ears need exposure. Your mouth needs practice. Your confidence needs experience. Every time you listen to English, you are training your ears. Every time you repeat a sentence, you are training your mouth. Every time you speak despite a mistake, you are training your confidence. So don't ask, how quickly can I become fluent? Ask yourself, what am I willing to do every day? Maybe you can give English 15 minutes in the morning. Listen to a short story while drinking your tea. Repeat the sentences. Then, in the afternoon, spend another 10 minutes speaking about your day. At night, listen again. You don't need a perfect schedule. You need a realistic one that you can follow. And remember, your progress may not always be visible. You might practice for several days and feel exactly the same. Don't let that feeling convince you that nothing is happening. Learning is often happening quietly. Your brain is collecting sounds, sentence patterns, vocabulary, pronunciation, and expressions. Then, one day, something that seemed difficult suddenly becomes easier. That moment is not magic. It is the result of all those small payments you made when nobody was watching. Every minute of practice counts. Every sentence you repeat counts. Every mistake you correct counts. Every time you choose practice instead of an excuse, you move closer to the person you want to become. You don't need to sacrifice your entire life for English. You simply need to stop expecting extraordinary results from ordinary effort. If you practice only when you feel motivated, your progress will always depend on your mood. But if you practice because you made a decision, you become consistent. Some days you will be tired. Some days you will feel embarrassed. Some days you will think your English is not improving. Continue anyway. Your responsibility is not to feel confident every day. Your responsibility is to keep showing up. The price of fluency is not perfection. The price is participation. Speak before you are ready. Listen before you understand everything. Try before you feel confident. Learn before you feel prepared. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. There is no shame in starting small. There is no shame in speaking slowly. There is no shame in forgetting a word. There is no shame in asking someone to repeat a sentence. The only thing that truly keeps you stuck is refusing to begin. So when you think about learning English, don't think about how much you don't know. Think about what you can practice today. One sentence, one story, one conversation, one small improvement. Then repeat it tomorrow and the next day. And the day after that, stop waiting for perfect English, because perfect English is not the starting point of fluency. It is something that develops through practice, mistakes, patience, and real communication. Many people spend months or even years preparing to speak, but they never actually speak because they believe they need to know more words, understand every grammar rule, or pronounce every sentence perfectly. They keep telling themselves, I will speak when my English is better. But your English becomes better because you speak, not before you speak. Imagine a person who wants to learn how to ride a bicycle. They read books about balance. They watch videos about riding. They study how the wheels move. They learn everything about bicycles, but they never sit on one because they are afraid of falling. Can they become a skilled rider that way? Of course not. At some point, they have to get on the bicycle. They may fall. They may lose balance. They may feel embarrassed, but every attempt teaches them something. Learning English works exactly the same way. You can watch hundreds of lessons, memorize thousands of words, and study grammar for years, but if you never open your mouth, your speaking ability will remain weak. You have to step into the uncomfortable part of learning. One of the biggest problems English learners face is the fear of being judged. You may think, what if I say something wrong? What if someone laughs at my pronunciation? What if I forget a word? These questions can become louder than your desire to improve. But remember, making a mistake while learning is not failure. Refusing to try because you might make a mistake is what keeps you from growing. Nobody begins with perfect English. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner. They also forgot words. They also pronounced things incorrectly. They also struggled to create sentences. The difference is that they continued speaking while they were imperfect. You don't need to wait until you know every tense. You don't need to memorize every vocabulary list. You don't need to understand every accent. Start with what you know. If you know 10 sentences, use those 10 sentences. If you know 20 words, build conversations with those words. If you can only introduce yourself every day. Say your name, talk about your family, describe your room, explain what you are doing, talk about your plans, speak about your dreams. At first, it may feel strange to speak English alone. You may feel silly standing in front of a mirror and talking to yourself. But this simple practice can help you become comfortable with your own voice. You begin to hear your pronunciation. You notice where you hesitate. You discover which words you don't remember. Then you can improve those areas. The goal is not to sound perfect. The goal is to communicate clearly and become more comfortable every day. Think about children learning their first language. They don't wait until they understand grammar. They don't sit with a grammar book before saying their first sentence. They listen, copy, experiment, make mistakes, and try again. They learn through experience. You can use the same principle while learning English. Listen to a short story. Choose one sentence, repeat it several times. Change one word, create another sentence, then use it in your own situation. Instead of saying, I need to improve my English before I speak, change the thought to, I will improve my English by speaking. That small change in thinking can completely change your learning journey. You don't have to speak for 1 hour every day. Even 10 minutes of focused speaking can be valuable if you do it consistently. Record your voice. Listen to yourself. Notice your mistakes without judging yourself. Then record it again. The second recording may be slightly better. Tomorrow, it may be better again. Don't compare your first attempt with someone else's 10th year. Compare your English today with your English yesterday. There will be days when you feel confident and days when you don't. There will be conversations that go smoothly and conversations where you struggle. Accept both experiences. They are part of learning. Every time you speak, you are teaching your brain that English is not only something you study, it is something you use. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. There will always be another word to learn, another grammar rule to understand, another pronunciation detail to improve. If you keep waiting until everything is perfect, you may spend your entire life preparing without ever experiencing the freedom of speaking. Mistakes are not the enemy of English learning. They are one of the most important parts of it. If you are learning English and you never make mistakes, you may not be challenging yourself enough. A mistake means you tried something that was not completely familiar. It means you stepped beyond what was comfortable. That is exactly where growth begins. Many learners are terrified of making mistakes. They think one wrong word will make them look unintelligent. They worry that people will laugh at their pronunciation or correct their grammar. Because of this fear, they choose silence. They know what they want to say, but they keep the sentence inside their mind. They believe staying quiet will protect them from embarrassment. But silence may protect you from embarrassment for a moment, while also keeping you away from progress. Imagine a child learning to walk. The child stands up, takes a few steps, loses balance and falls. Nobody looks at that child and says, "You are terrible at walking." Nobody expects the child to stand perfectly on the first attempt. The child falls, gets up, and tries again. Every fall teaches the body something about balance. Every attempt makes the next attempt easier. Your English journey is similar. When you pronounce a word incorrectly, you learn how that word should sound. When you use the wrong tense, you discover the correct structure. When you forget a word, you learn another way to express the same idea. When someone asks you a question and you don't know how to answer, you discover what you need to practice. A mistake is information. It tells you where your next lesson is. Instead of saying, "I made a mistake, so my English is bad," say, "I found something I can improve." That change in attitude can transform the way you learn. Think about someone who wants to speak English confidently, but refuses to speak until their grammar is perfect. They spend months studying rules. They understand many concepts. They can recognize grammar mistakes in exercises. But when someone speaks to them, they become nervous. Why? Because knowledge and experience are different things. You can know the rules without being comfortable using them. Confidence comes from repeated experience. You speak, you make a mistake, you survive the mistake, you learn from it, then you speak again. After doing this many times, your fear becomes smaller. At first, you may feel nervous every time you speak English. Then you become nervous only sometimes. Eventually, you may forget that you were ever afraid. This is why you should not judge yourself too harshly. If your pronunciation is not perfect, keep speaking. If your vocabulary is limited, use simple words. If your grammar is not perfect, communicate anyway. You do not need sophisticated English to express simple thoughts. You can say, "I am tired." You can say, "I went to the market." You can say, "I don't understand this." You can say, "Can you repeat that?" These simple sentences are powerful because they are useful. The more you use simple English, the more comfortable you become. Then you naturally begin adding more complex words and structures. Another important lesson is that mistakes should be corrected, but they should not become reasons to stop. When someone corrects you, don't feel ashamed. Listen carefully. Repeat the correct sentence. Use it again later. Correction is not an attack on your ability. It is guidance. You can even create your own mistake notebook. Whenever you make a common mistake, write down the correct version. Review it regularly. You will begin noticing patterns. A mistake that happens 10 times may happen 5 times later, then 2 times, and eventually disappear from your speech. Don't expect yourself to eliminate every mistake immediately. Language is a skill, and skills improve through repetition. Your goal is not to become someone who never makes mistakes. Your goal is to become someone who is not afraid of making them. There is a huge difference between those two goals. One keeps you trapped. The other sets you free, so speak even when your voice shakes. Answer even when you're unsure. Try a new word even if you're afraid of pronouncing it incorrectly. Tell a story even if your sentences are simple. Every mistake you make while practicing is proof that you are participating in your own growth. You don't have to be perfect to be proud of yourself. You only need to be brave enough to keep trying, keep learning, keep correcting, and keep moving forward. Practice the English you already know. This sounds simple, but it can completely change the way you learn. Many learners believe they need to learn hundreds or thousands of new words before they can start speaking. They keep collecting vocabulary, watching lessons, saving phrases, and writing notes, but they rarely use what they already know. The result is that their notebooks become full while their speaking remains quiet. You may already know more English than you think. You might know how to introduce yourself, describe your family, talk about your daily routine, explain what you like, describe your feelings, ask simple questions, and talk about your plans. These sentences may look basic, but basic English is the foundation of fluent English. You don't build a strong house by ignoring the foundation. Imagine you know 50 useful English sentences. Instead of immediately searching for another 100 sentences, take those 50 and use them in different situations. Change the subject, change the tense, change one word. Ask yourself questions and answer them using the language you already have. For example, if you know the sentence, I am learning English, you can create many variations. I am learning English every day. I am learning English because I want to speak confidently. I was learning English yesterday. I will continue learning English tomorrow. My friend is learning English too. One sentence can become many sentences when you start playing with the language. This is how you move from memorization to real communication. Don't underestimate simple words. Words like go, come, want, need, like, know, think, feel, make, and take are incredibly powerful. You can create thousands of useful sentences with a relatively small number of common words. The problem is often not that you don't know enough English. The problem is that you don't use the English you already know automatically. Think about a person who has studied swimming for years but never entered the water. They may know everything about swimming techniques, but their body will not become comfortable in the water until they actually practice. English is similar. Your brain needs repeated exposure, and your mouth needs repeated use. Start using English in your everyday life. When you wake up, describe your morning in English. I am awake. I need to get up. I am going to wash my face. I am making breakfast. I have to get ready. When you are working, think about what you are doing. I am checking my messages. I am working on this task. I need more time. I have finished this. When you are outside, describe what you see. There is a car. The weather is beautiful. People are walking. That building is very tall. You don't need a teacher standing beside you. Your daily life can become your classroom. You can also practice by telling yourself short stories. Talk about what happened yesterday. Explain what you are doing today. Imagine what you will do tomorrow. Speak for 2 minutes without stopping. If you forget a word, use another word. If you don't know the exact expression, explain the idea in simple English. This is an important skill. Fluent speakers do not always know every word. They know how to continue when they don't know a word. Suppose you forget the word umbrella. Instead of becoming silent, you can say, the thing I use when it rains. You communicated your meaning even without knowing the exact word. That is real communication. Don't make vocabulary your excuse. Use what you have. If your vocabulary is small, speak simply. If your grammar is basic, create basic sentences. If your pronunciation needs improvement, continue practicing. Your current English is enough to begin. Every time you use a word in a real sentence, that word becomes stronger in your memory. Every time you repeat a phrase, it becomes easier to remember. Every time you use English in a real situation, you make the language more natural. You don't need to learn everything today. You need to use something today. Take 5 sentences you already know and speak them aloud 10 times. Then change them. Ask questions with them. Answer those questions. Use them to describe your life. By doing this, you turn passive knowledge into active knowledge. The difference between knowing English and using English is practice. You may recognize a word when you hear it, but struggle to say it. You may understand a sentence when you read it, but hesitate when you need to create it yourself. That is normal. Recognition comes before production for many learners. So don't become frustrated when speaking feels harder than listening. Keep practicing. The goal is to make the language available when you need it. Your English does not have to be complicated to be powerful. Sometimes the clearest sentence is the simplest one. Speak clearly. Speak honestly. Speak often. Use the words you have today, and tomorrow those words will become easier to use. Then add one new word, one new phrase, one new expression, and use that too. Slowly, your small collection of English becomes a powerful communication tool, built not by memorizing everything at once, but by using what you already know again and again until it becomes part of your natural voice. Consistency beats motivation because motivation comes and goes. But consistency can carry you forward even when you don't feel excited. There will be days when you wake up feeling inspired to learn English. You will want to listen to stories, practice speaking, learn new words, and spend an hour improving yourself. Those days are wonderful, but they are not the days that decide your progress. Your real progress is often created on the days when you feel tired, distracted, busy, or discouraged. yet you still give a little time to English. Many people begin learning with tremendous excitement. They make a schedule, download several apps, buy notebooks, watch lessons, and promise themselves that they will study every day. For the first few days, everything feels easy. Then life becomes busy. They miss one day, then another. After a week, they feel guilty and decide they will start again on Monday. This cycle can continue for months. The problem is not always a lack of ability. It is a lack of consistency. You don't need to study English for 5 hours every day. You need to create a habit that you can maintain. 15 focused minutes every day can be more valuable than 3 hours once a week if your goal is to build a lasting skill. Think about watering a plant. You don't pour an enormous amount of water on it once every few weeks and expect it to grow perfectly. Regular care matters. English learning is similar. Your brain benefits from frequent contact with the language. Listen regularly, speak regularly, read regularly, repeat regularly. Consistency creates familiarity. When you hear English every day, the sounds become more familiar. When you speak every day, your mouth becomes more comfortable creating English sentences. When you read every day, sentence structures become easier to recognize. When you review words regularly, they become easier to remember. You may not notice these changes immediately, but they are happening. This is why you should create small daily goals. Instead of saying, "I will become fluent this year," say, "Today I will listen to English for 15 minutes." Instead of saying, "I will learn thousands of words," say, "Today I will learn 5 useful expressions and use them in sentences." Instead of saying, "I will speak English perfectly," say, "Today I will speak English aloud for 10 minutes." Small goals are easy to complete, and completed goals create confidence. You also need to understand that missing one day does not destroy your progress. You are human. Sometimes you will be sick, busy, tired, or distracted. The important thing is not to turn one missed day into one missed week. If you miss Monday, return on Tuesday. If you miss Tuesday, return on Wednesday. Don't punish yourself. Just continue. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means returning to the path again and again. You can make English part of activities you already do. Listen to an English story while preparing breakfast. Listen to a podcast while walking. Read a short English paragraph before sleeping. Speak to yourself while getting ready in the morning. Write a few sentences about your day before going to bed. This way, English becomes part of your lifestyle, instead of another difficult task on your schedule. Another powerful method is to create a simple routine. For example, spend 10 minutes listening, 10 minutes repeating, and 10 minutes speaking. You don't need complicated materials. Choose something you enjoy. A short story, a conversation, a motivational lesson, or an interesting topic can become your practice material. The most important thing is repetition. You might listen to the same story several times. The first time, you understand the general meaning. The second time, you notice more words. The third time, certain phrases become familiar. After several repetitions, you may begin remembering entire expressions without consciously memorizing them. This is how natural learning develops. Don't always chase something new. Sometimes going deeper into one lesson is more useful than watching 10 different lessons once. Give your brain time to absorb what you learn. And don't wait for motivation before practicing. Practice can create motivation. When you complete your daily English routine, even for a few minutes, you feel a small sense of achievement. That feeling encourages you to continue tomorrow. Your goal is not to have perfect motivation. Your goal is to build a system that works even when motivation is low. Put your English practice on your calendar. Choose a regular time. Keep your materials ready. Remove distractions. Start with a small amount of practice. Then make it a normal part of your day. After enough repetition, you will stop asking yourself whether you should practice. You will simply practice because it has become part of who you are. One day, you may look back and realize that your English improved, not because of one extraordinary lesson, but because you kept showing up when nobody was watching. The small sessions mattered. The ordinary days mattered. The boring days mattered. The days when you practiced for only 10 minutes mattered. Progress is often built in those quiet moments when there is no applause, no dramatic transformation, and no immediate reward. So don't depend on how you feel today. Depend on the promise you made to yourself. Keep listening, keep speaking, keep repeating, Keep learning, keep returning. Even when progress feels slow, continue giving your brain regular contact with English. Because every small practice session is another step toward making English a natural part of your daily life. Small daily efforts create big results, because progress rarely happens in one dramatic moment. Most meaningful changes begin with something tiny. One sentence, one new phrase, one listening exercise, one conversation, one page, or 10 minutes of practice may seem too small to matter. But when you repeat those actions consistently, they begin to create a powerful change in your ability. Many English learners make the mistake of looking only at the final destination. They think about speaking fluently, understanding native speakers, having confident conversations, and expressing complicated ideas without hesitation. Those goals are exciting, but sometimes they feel so far away that the learner becomes discouraged. Instead of focusing on the entire journey, focus on today's step. Ask yourself, what can I do with English today? Maybe you can listen to a short story for 10 minutes. Maybe you can repeat 5 sentences aloud. Maybe you can learn 3 useful expressions. Maybe you can describe your morning in English. These activities may seem ordinary, but ordinary actions repeated over time can create extraordinary results. Think about a drop of water. One drop seems insignificant. You cannot fill a bucket with one drop. But if drops continue falling again and again, eventually the bucket becomes full. Your English practice works in the same way. One word may not make you fluent. One story may not make you fluent. One conversation may not make you fluent. But thousands of small moments of learning can transform your ability. The important thing is to stop underestimating small progress. You don't have to study for 3 hours every day. If you are busy, start with 10 minutes. If 10 minutes feels difficult, start with 5. The goal is to create movement. Once you begin, you may naturally continue for longer. Imagine waking up tomorrow and learning 5 useful English phrases. You use each phrase in a sentence. The next day, you review those phrases and learn 5 more. After 1 week, you have practiced dozens of expressions. After 1 month, you have a much larger collection of language that you have actually used. But the real benefit is not only the number of words. It is the confidence created through repetition. Every time you successfully use a phrase, your brain receives evidence that you can communicate in English. Every time you understand a sentence that was difficult before, you realize that your listening is improving. Every time you speak without translating, you discover that your mind is becoming more comfortable with English. These small victories matter. Celebrate them. Maybe today you understood a sentence without translating it. That is progress. Maybe you spoke for 2 minutes without stopping. That is progress. Maybe you remembered a word you learned last week. That is progress. Maybe you made a mistake but continued speaking. That is progress. Do not wait for a huge transformation before allowing yourself to feel proud. Growth is made of small victories. Another powerful habit is to track your progress. Keep a simple notebook and write down what you practiced each day. You don't need complicated charts. Write something like Monday, listened for 15 minutes. Tuesday, spoke for 10 minutes. Wednesday, learned 5 phrases. After several weeks, look back at your notes. You will see evidence that you have been moving forward. This can be especially helpful on days when you feel like your English is not improving. Feelings can be misleading. Your mind may tell you that nothing has changed, but your practice record can remind you that you have been doing the work. You can also compare recordings of your voice. Record yourself speaking English today. Save the recording. After 1 month, record yourself again using a similar topic. Listen to both recordings. You may notice improvements in pronunciation, vocabulary, speed, confidence, or sentence structure that you could not feel from day to day. This is why patience is so important. Some changes are too small to notice immediately. A tree does not become tall in one morning. It grows gradually. English fluency is also gradual. You may not see the change today, but your daily effort is preparing you for tomorrow. Don't make your practice complicated. Listen, repeat, speak, review, use. Then do it again. If you only have 15 minutes, give 15 minutes. If you have 30 minutes, give 30. If you have an hour, use it wisely. The amount matters less than the habit of showing up. And remember that your daily effort does not have to be perfect. Some days you may practice with great energy. Other days you may only have enough strength for a few sentences. Both days count. The person who practices a little every day can eventually pass the person who practices intensely, only when they feel motivated. Your future fluency is being created by what you do repeatedly. So don't ask whether today's effort is big enough. Ask whether you are moving. One sentence today, one conversation tomorrow, one story the next day, one more attempt when you feel nervous, one more practice session when you feel tired. Those moments may look small now, but when they come together, they create the ability to speak with confidence, understand more naturally, and express yourself without constantly worrying about every single word. Believe in yourself and keep going, especially on the days when your progress feels invisible. Learning English is not only a language journey, it is also a journey of confidence. You may have the vocabulary, the lessons, and the practice materials, but if you constantly tell yourself that you cannot do it, every small challenge will feel much bigger than it really is. There will be moments when you listen to English and understand almost nothing. There will be conversations where someone speaks quickly and you need them to repeat themselves. There will be times when you forget a simple word that you already knew. You may even have a day when your English feels worse than it did yesterday. Don't allow one difficult moment to become a conclusion about your ability. Your progress is not always a straight line. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel confused. Some days you will speak easily. Other days you will struggle with simple sentences. This does not mean you are moving backward. It means you are learning something that requires time, repetition, and patience. Think about the first time you tried something difficult. At the beginning, it probably felt uncomfortable. Then, after repeated attempts, it became easier. English can become easier in the same way. You have to give yourself permission to be a learner. You don't need to sound like a native speaker today. You don't need to know every word. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need perfect pronunciation. You only need enough courage to try. When you speak, focus on communication rather than perfection. Your goal is to express an idea. If you make a small mistake but the other person understands you, you have communicated successfully. You can improve the mistake later. Confidence is not the belief that you will never make mistakes. Confidence is knowing that you can make a mistake and still continue. That is a powerful difference. Many people think confident speakers are people who never feel nervous. That is not always true. Sometimes confident people feel nervous too. The difference is that they don't allow nervousness to control their actions. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel uncertain and still try. You can make mistakes and still continue. You can feel slow and still make progress. Never let your current level decide your future. Maybe today you can only speak simple English. That's okay. Simple English is still English. Start there. Speak about your family. Talk about your work. Describe your favorite food. Explain your morning routine. Tell someone what you did yesterday. Talk about your dreams for the future. Every conversation gives you another opportunity to practice. And when you don't have someone to speak with, speak to yourself. Stand in front of a mirror. Walk around your room and describe what you see. Tell yourself a story. Ask yourself questions and answer them. These activities may feel unusual at first, but they help you become comfortable producing English without waiting for someone else. You can also use stories to build confidence. Listen to a short English story several times. First, focus on understanding. Then repeat the sentences. After that, tell the story using your own words. You may not remember every sentence, and that is completely fine. Your goal is not to reproduce the story perfectly. Your goal is to communicate the main idea. This teaches your brain to think in English, instead of depending completely on translation. And whenever you feel like quitting, remember why you started. Maybe you want better opportunities. Maybe you want to communicate while traveling. Maybe you want to understand English movies and videos. Maybe you want to speak confidently with people from different countries. Maybe you simply want to prove to yourself that you can learn something that once seemed impossible. Keep that reason close to you. Your reason can become stronger than your fear. Don't compare your beginning with someone else's middle. You may see someone speaking English effortlessly and think they are naturally talented. You don't see the hours they spent listening, speaking, failing, correcting, and practicing. You only see the result. Focus on your own process. If you improve 1% today, that is enough. If you learn one useful phrase, that is enough. If you speak for 5 minutes instead of 0, that is progress. If you make a mistake and try again, that is courage. Give yourself credit for showing up. Your mind may sometimes say, "I'm not good at English." Replace that thought with, "I'm learning English." There is a huge difference. One statement closes the door, the other keeps it open. Don't label yourself according to your current ability. Your current level is simply where you are today. It is not where you have to remain. Keep listening, keep speaking, keep practicing, keep learning, keep believing. There will be days when you feel tired, but don't confuse tiredness with failure. Rest when you need to, then return. There will be days when progress feels slow, but slow progress is still progress. There will be days when you make many mistakes, but mistakes can become lessons. Your English journey does not need to be perfect to be successful. It only needs to continue, so take the next small step. Speak one sentence, listen to one story, repeat one phrase, learn one expression, have one conversation. Then take another step tomorrow. Your future self will be grateful for every time you refused to give up. Every time you practiced while feeling uncertain. Every time you chose courage over fear. And every time you decided that your mistakes would not be the reason you stopped learning.